I'm Aislinn Green, and this is Unpacked, the podcast that unpacks one tricky topic in travel every week. And today, we're wading back into the weeds or the waters, whatever you want to say, of family travel. We're going to be hearing today from several members of the Afar staff, all parents, in a conversation helmed by Laura Dannon-Redman, our New York-based digital content director. She and I talked a little bit after their conversation, and we're going to hear that for a couple of minutes before we go into the larger group conversation. Okay. Well, hi, Laura.
Hi.
How are you?
Can I call you Ace?
Yeah, of course. Of course. I'll explain for listeners. That's my California nickname. I don't know what happened, but when I moved to California, I somehow became Ace. So we're going to be hearing your thoughts and tips on traveling with kids in a couple minutes. And it's such a big topic. Like, how did you decide how to focus this conversation?
It is. It's massive. We actually had a much, much longer list of topics we wanted to dig into. And I think I might have bothered my colleagues because we ended up focusing just on a few. We probably could have stayed for a few hours. And what I wanted people to get out of this is I wanted to feel personal and relatable and accessible, right?
Yeah.
Because parenting is different around the world for different families. No one size fits all. So especially when it comes to travel, I just wanted people to feel like they could get a couple concrete tips based on the conversations we had and the lessons we learned along the way, for better or for worse.
Yes. And there are many lessons, it sounds like.
Yes.
Without giving kind of everything away, what were your main takeaways?
We all have kids that are younger, that are kind of under the age of 7, I'd say. And I think there is a lot of fear sometimes about, bothering other people when you're on the road with little kids. And we want to empower people to feel like they can go anywhere with little kids, that no matter the age, that little kids are just tiny humans who also want to see the world and learn a lot. And there are ways that you can bring a bit of home with you to make it a little easier on yourself and the kids. Hold out for Michelle Barron's packing tip. It's my favorite lesson in the whole conversation. I'm not going to reveal it here, but it's about halfway into the conversation.
It is quite brilliant. So yes, stay for that, if nothing else. You have a big family trip coming up this summer. Were there any tips that you feel like you were going to put into practice?
So we have this month-long trip that Aislinn's alluding to Australia and New Zealand, and I am pumped for it. And I am also a little nervous because we are bringing the kids to the other side of the world. What will jet lag be like? How long will it take hold? And I think my takeaway from our conversations was that, you have to go with the flow. You have to be willing to change your plans, even if it's a carefully scripted trip with internal flights and destinations you intend to get to. Doesn't matter. You kind of just have to wing it every now and then, which is hard for families who are used to routine. Kids thrive in routine. So I am trying to convince my husband to be okay with just canceling some things and maybe sticking around in a place where we're loving the hotel, we're loving the town, and we just want to see more of it, to dig in a little more.
And it's so great to talk about that in advance, right? That your plan is to essentially disrupt the plan. So yes, everyone's on the same page. If you're like, hey, we're really loving this place, let's stay here for a little longer. That's really wise. All right. Well, on the next family travel episode, we will circle back to you and you can tell us about how it went. your learnings.
If we're still alive, I'll check back with you in a month.
Wonderful. All right. We'll talk to you then. Thanks so much, Laura.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Dannon-Redman, based here in Brooklyn in my basement/playroom studio, which feels very appropriate for today's conversation. I'm talking with a few of my colleagues about family travel in 23. And I get to talk about this because I have two very sweet, very active little girls, Haley and Livy, who are 6 and 4. So what I'm going to do is just go around the horn and ask everyone to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about yourself. Ooh, let's add a fun fact, too. We'll start a debate. In addition to telling us where you're from and your kids and how old they are, please tell me if you prefer to drive or fly with them and why. So I prefer to fly with the kids because they have become little urban children who aren't used to being in cars for more than 20 minutes at a time. And they are much better behaved on an airplane because they get to like watch an iPad and move around and check out the snacks and things. So that gets my vote. All right, next up, Michelle.
Hey there, I am Michelle Barron. I'm the senior travel news editor at Afar, and I also have two kids, a daughter age 4 and a son, Nico's almost 7. We live in the Bay Area, and as far as whether or not we prefer to drive or fly, it's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but honestly, I love them both. They're both for very different reasons. You know, it's with driving, I feel like I can pile all the things into the car, and so I don't have to think too strategically about like what we bring or what we don't bring. We just bring everything. And there's so many great places to go and driving distance in California, which we did a lot during the pandemic. But then with flying, we can go more places. So, but then we have to be more strategic about how we pack. So I like them both, and the kids love them both most of the time, definitely more now than when they were toddlers.
Good. Awesome. All right. Next up, Sarka.
Thanks so much for having me here. I am Sarika Bansal. I'm our editorial director. I live in Nairobi, Kenya, and I have one daughter who is 3 years old. Her name is Isla. In terms of flying or driving, I will also say both. Actually, Isla loves airplanes. She just loves the whole thrill of it, like, you know, saying hi to all the flight attendants and looking out the window at the clouds and all the snacks and walking around. We love to camp as a family also. So I think that for that, it's just so, I just really love, you know, going on in a car camping sort of a weekend adventure away.
So nobody said yet, I hate flying because my kids throw tantrums. Tim, is it going to be you?
It is, yeah. I hate both. I managed to survive them. I'm Tim Chester, deputy editor at Afar, based in Southern California. I used to have I do have a son who's now 7, and then we accidentally tripled that. So we have 2 more sons who are both 3.5. We used to do a lot of flying with just one, and then when the other 2 came along, we've done 1 flight in their lifetimes, but we have another one coming up very soon. But yeah, if I had to choose, I much prefer driving. Obviously, lots of places within reach in Southern California. We can, like you say, stack up the car with everything they love, and we're not annoying anyone else. And if we have to stop, we can stop and take it at our own pace. And I don't feel as trapped as I do in an airplane.
That's a really good point about like not wanting to annoy anyone and being able to like kind of own your space. I feel like that came up a lot during the pandemic, right? That was our out for getting around. And I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, just road trips in general and thinking about the role that they play in family travel nowadays. But to kick it off, I wanted to get our readers some really good intel on where they should go with their kids. So I wanted to hear from you. Where are you going this year with your little ones? Just to note, I think we all have kids under the age of 7. It sounds like Ollie is the oldest, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry for all y'all out there who have teenagers. We are not there yet. But please, you know, leave us comments and tell us what you do and what kind of trips you've taken with them. I'm happy to start, and then I'll pass it off. I'm in the midst of finishing up plans for a fairly crazy month spent in Australia and New Zealand with my whole family, my husband and the girls. So we are going under the auspices of going to see some FIFA Women's World Cup matches. So we are getting to 2 matches. But we're using it as an excuse to kind of work remote a little bit and take the girls all over Australia, which is a place that I love. I studied abroad there and have been back 5 or 6 times. We are circling the country. We're going to Byron Bay, Cairns, Perth on the other side, then back across to Tasmania, and then Sydney, a stop in Melbourne, and then over to New Zealand and the South Island around Queenstown before flying out of Auckland, in and out of Auckland, which I think probably just gave a whole lot of people panic attacks as I said all that. And recognizing that we're, you know, going to make our kids move a lot. They're going to be on the go. We're going to be changing routines. We may not have routines, but we're also not trying to program too much. We just kind of assume there will be a lot of pool days and chill days walking around the base. So wherever we're based in each of those places is really important.
Do you find the more you do that, the more they get used to rolling with it?
A little, yeah. We've been traveling with them since they were like doing big trips since they were about 7 months old each. And they are very adaptable, thankfully. But I think like things you're used to, like they're used to that, but they can't handle a 2-hour road trip, So it's kind of like apples and oranges a little. So anyone else? I think, Michelle, you're taking a pretty epic trip with your kids in a few weeks.
Yeah, next week we are leaving to Poland and Romania, which is a trip I dreamt up last year when my father turned 80. My mother's Polish and my father's Romanian, and they immigrated into the United States in the late 60s. So it's been on my mind to go there with my family, and my kids' ages made it not very attractive the last few years. But then with my dad turning 80, more or less the pandemic restrictions going away, and my daughter being 4.5 now. So hopefully being a little more amenable to international travel, we're going to make it happen. Similarly, it will be a pretty busy trip. We'll go to Warsaw. From Warsaw, we're going to Krakow for a couple of days. Then we're going to fly to Bucharest. From Bucharest, we'll take a little mini road trip. And I'm honestly, I myself am curious to see what my own review of this trip will be when I get back, in terms of mostly my daughter's performance, and see whether or not she steps up to the challenge and leaves some of the toddler antics behind, or if we see some regressions and some fits and, asking to go back home, which is common. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but sometimes I feel like when we push our kids a little bit in terms of the pace of travel being a bit much, or them getting too far out of their comfort zone, I notice that especially my daughter will start to say, I want to go back home. Because she's just missing the comfort and the routine. Anyways, it's going to be epic. It's going to be great. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be all the things, all the reasons why we do this, why we push through and do these big trips, because it'll be great. No matter what, there'll be memories. Some good, some probably not so good, but there will definitely be memories.
I love that. My daughter, just this weekend, we were in New Jersey from New York. She said she wanted to go home. And it was so weird because we were at grandma's house, right? And she just wasn't feeling well. So it's kind of you can't predict when that's going to happen. I totally hear you.
Yeah.
You're just changing their environment constantly. And
even things like food,
Right.
My mom likes to cook Polish. Obviously she likes to cook Polish food, and my kids don't. It's food that they're not as familiar with. And so they just get kind of whiny, and, and it's can you try and eat it? 'Cause she made it for you. And it's I just want to go home where,
I eat mac and cheese 3 meals a day.
Yeah. So, and also that just balancing the multi-gen stuff is interesting and challenging, and it's heartwarming and challenging and all of it.
Before we hear about Tim and Sarka's trips, do any of you have things you must pack for the kids to create that sense of home? I mean, admittedly, it's not going to be home, right? That's the point. You're going on vacation and it's going to be fun and new. But how do you get out of the house without 20 stuffies is my basic question.
I mean, I have something embarrassing to admit about how I'm packing on this Europe trip. My Kalina, who's clearly the more challenging one, is a very picky eater. I am packing one whole suitcase basically of foods I know she will eat. Literally Cheerios, Hawaiian rolls, even some shelf stable milk. So I have milk, a suitcase. It's ridiculous. I never thought I would be this parent. I always thought I'd be we go, we're going to find things to eat, it. And it's just you know what? I just need some peace of mind to know I have some things that will keep her alive for 2 weeks and stave off, fits. And I was this is perfect. I'll go with this extra suitcase that has a bunch of snacks, and we'll eat through the snacks, and then we'll pack it with souvenirs and bring it back.
That's kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
Either of you guys?
Nothing unusual, no, really. Just books,
Yeah,
books.
A lot of books.
Books are heavy, though, right?
Yeah. But I'm not wheeling the little kid suitcase behind.
Oh, so they have their own little kid suitcases now. This is another debate, whether we do the 2 giant adult suitcases that the kids can ride on, or we make everyone pack their own. All right, so you're opting for the little suitcases. Where are you going next, Tim?
Yeah, my travels aren't quite as ambitious as either of your trips, partly because we're a bit outnumbered 3-2. And even when we just go to a local, we went to this local chili cook-off thing, and there's always one missing. And so we're trying to contain them a bit more on our travels. So this weekend, we're actually doing a multi-gen trip to Legoland, and we're actually using an app called Turo, which is a car sharing app, because we need 7 seats. So I'm interested to see how that works out. And then later in the summer, we're going to finally get back on a plane and go to Cabo San Lucas. There's 2 auberge hotels really close to each other, and they both have great kids clubs packed full of activities. Because I mean, this is another family travel dilemma. Like, how much do you want to spend time as a family on the trip, and how much do you want to pack them off to someone else and relax? So we're going to do a mixture of the two. But yeah, we're on the lookout for places where we can, like I say, contain them and keep them stimulated, and just know where all 3 are at any one time.
I like the philosophy of one thing for the kids and one thing for the parents each day, or like the adults each day. So you don't like, especially if you're doing Legoland all day, you should get like wine country day the next day or something. Like a little healthy balance.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Sarika, what about you?
I was just thinking how, like, sometimes traveling with kids can just feel like parenting in another location that you're not as familiar with. So I feel like having that kind of balance really helps. In terms of where we are going to actually be spending a bunch of the summer in the US, which is where our families are. And on the way, we're going to be spending a week in London, which I'm really excited about. My aunt is there, and I spent a bunch of time there as a kid. And I am actually really excited to show my daughter like the side of London that I saw as a kid, like having like a softy ice cream with a flake in it, and going to see the changing of the guards, and kind of like the cheesy tourist stuff that I think more experienced travelers would roll their eyes at a little bit, but in the eyes of a toddler, it's all really fun and cool. I also really want to take her to a museum for sure, and just expose her to some very, I feel like London has such amazing exhibits on right now. Specifically, like there's this really cool Ai Weiwei exhibit. So I don't know what she'll understand of it, but I'm just excited for it.
Where are you staying in London?
With my aunt. And I feel like most of our travel, I think this is a thing with being an expat, is that most travel ends up revolving around seeing loved ones who live very far away. And yeah, so it's that hard balance of like, okay, we want to spend time together as a family, but we also want to see all this family and friends who we on a daily basis live halfway across the world from.
I think that would resonate with a lot of people, probably people listening too, is how do you balance wanting to just take a vacation just for your immediate family and spending time traveling to see people, especially post-pandemic, right? There's that rush.
Totally.
We had so many years to make up. Tim, do you go back to London much? If you couldn't tell, Tim's accent is very Southern Californian.
Yeah, well, we did the famous trip back with the first child when he was 2.5, and yeah, he was awake, running up and down the aisle both ways. Finally, fell asleep just as the plane was coming into land, and got really cranky at passport control. He was doing that strange sort of walking circles on the floor thing where the stewardesses and stewards were trying to work, and it was a nightmare. And then he woke up at 3 a.m. every day for a week. So we were a bit scarred from that, but we are actually planning to go back next summer. So we're like going to do a month there, and the youngest ones will be 4.5. So I'm just hoping that everything will be fine, and we'll definitely be buying 3 iPads for that.
Yeah, Godspeed. No. So many of us are doing these longer trips now too. Did you guys ever take a month to do something before, or like 3 weeks? We're all US based. Well, traditionally US based, and we have like a minute of vacation. Although Afar has a very generous flexible leave policy.
My parents, being European, they were very into the like August. We take all of August off and we go, and we did actually take these like epic trips in August. And I recently asked them about that. I was like, how did you do that? Like, did you have vacation time to do? They were engineers, like very intense 9 to 5, 7 to 5 jobs. And they said that they took some of it as unpaid vacation. So in order, they would arrange it all and make sure like they were covered for being out of the office. But they said, yeah, they just took like 2 of those weeks as unpaid. And I was like, oh, okay. Interesting.
I found that with kids, like there's so many times when they're sent home from preschool, there's so many times when you're juggling work and parenthood anyway, you may as well go do that somewhere else. And, combine a bit of remote working with a bit of vacation, and find some holiday camps and kids clubs and enlist grandparents, and just change the scene.
Yeah, we're bringing Grandma and Grandpa on part of our Australia hike, about a week of it. So I think my husband and I will have one night off, maybe, because that's another thing when you're on vacation. Like, Yeah. If you don't have kids clubs, it's parenting around the clock. At least when you're home, there's school or something. But I also think we all deal with jet lag a lot, jet lagged toddlers. Do you guys have any hacks or places you refuse to go because the jet lag is just the worst?
No, I mean, jet lag is definitely like time zones. Time zones definitely more of a consideration for me now. Just generally, I don't really want to go more than a 2 or 3 hour radius in any direction with all of them, if possible. It definitely kind of refocused where I think about traveling, and yeah, I certainly wouldn't do any super long haul stuff.
Yeah, if I'm honest about it, I am stressed out about this trip to Europe because of the jet lag. But I also just felt such a need to do it now that I like all the normal considerations. And I think this is the difference between, what I'm doing, this kind of returning to there's like a real specific purpose to this trip versus a vacation that we would pick. Because to Tim's point, I would definitely, in terms of vacation, we often just go north or south for, like we'll go to Canada or go down to Mexico. So we can go somewhere beautiful and not necessarily work. Cause it's like, I want to relax. In this case, I feel like I'm just like, we got to do this. We got to go. We're going to do it. And it can be painful. But one thing we haven't experienced a ton of jet lag, like big, like Europe jet lag with the kids, like 10-hour time difference. But we have done some like East Coast, like 3-hour. And one thing I do feel like people don't give kids enough credit for is they bounce back pretty quick. Like we are, like I feel like we're like the older one, like our bodies, like we're all like I'm old. Yeah, we're struggling. My kids, like one good night's sleep, like maybe that first night or so where it's like we're a little all over the place, but like I get them to crash hard on like one night and they crash and they sleep and it's like we're back. We're back in business. Like, so I do feel like they definitely are crazy maniacs. They're getting tired during the travel process. I feel like that part of it, the transition part is challenging, but I do feel like once they're rested, they're like fully 100% back in business. So, and that part I'm sort of envious about because I'm like, really? Because like I'm still creaking along.
So for us, like it's always going east to west, there's not nearly as much jet lag. So going west to east is actually the harder part. So for us, like, most of our big trips that we've done have been back to the US. And then so coming back, like I just know that there's going to be 5 days where it's just going to not be the best. And yeah, I agree with Michelle completely that kids bounce back so much faster and it's annoying because you're like, I'm tired. Can't we just all take sleep for another hour? I feel like a lot of the tricks that work for adults also work for kids though. Like just try to make sure that they see sunlight during the daytime and try not to let them nap too much during the day and all of the same things that I try to do. I'm like, okay, let me just try this on the little person and hopefully it works too.
Does anyone use melatonin gummies?
Not yet. Have you tried it? Does it work?
Yeah, which is I find a bit worrying. It's they're effective, but they're
for the kids and the adults, or just who do you give it to?
Just kids.
No, the things I've started doing is if we're taking a red eye and we're getting somewhere and we don't have early check-in, I call it investing. I've been investing in a hotel room for the night before, like an Airbnb or a hotel room, because we have spent like an entire day hanging in the lobby of a hotel until they let us in. And I never want to do that again. Even if it's in, Sevilla or Lisbon, they're beautiful, but it's still 6 a.m. and you have cranky kids. We also don't really get on local time very well, which ends up working in our favor because it means the kids stay up later and we get to sleep in. And maybe we don't get as much sunlight, unfortunately, but we do get to go out to dinner, which is something that we don't do that often at home. So I'm an advocate for just sleep when you're tired, but I might be in the minority there.
Oh yeah, we have no schedule when we're traveling. Like in terms of like bedtime, I'm like, what? Okay, it's 10 o'clock. I guess a child should sleep. I don't know. In India, which is like where my family is from, there really is like no bedtime for children. So it's like the whole concept of just keeping your kids like, 7 p.m. put them down is so foreign to me. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to do it because I know I should. But at the same time, if it doesn't happen, I'm like, I turned up fine. It's okay.
You did. going to switch gears for a minute and do a little rapid fire yes or no, little debates. Let's start with something that's been in the news lately. Should kids be in first or business class? Should they be allowed there? Sarka, you had a good response to that at one point.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't really get why it's okay. Number one, I do get that, kids don't crave the legroom as much as adults do because they, are smaller. But I remember so distinctly when I was 8 and we got upgraded and I sat in business class and I got ice cream with a real spoon and I felt so fancy. I just feel like, why are we denying little people those luxuries? Like they're so few and far between, and why not? I also feel like, I don't know, maybe part of it's that kids interrupt the elite, beautiful nature of first and business class or something like that, to which I say that I'm just very thankful that I am living in Nairobi, where kids are just considered part of society as opposed to these, little tiny creatures that you need to shove in a closet and put duct tape over their mouths because, they're not allowed to make any noises. And I don't know. I just feel like parents are responsible for their kids. They can bring enough stuff to stimulate the kids, whatever that is, in order to get them to not bother other people too much. And also, a lot of adults in business class are really annoying anyway, so I don't see the kids as being any different. So that's my slightly rebellious answer.
Yeah, what do we do about toddler behavior in adults?
Yeah, that's true.
Michelle, have you covered this, or did we talk about this? The idea of like an all-adult cabin or an all-adult airplane?
I mean, it comes up the issue of kids and flying comes up somewhat regularly. I actually just interviewed some Delta flight attendants about this very topic, about flying with kids and a lot of the struggles. My thing is, first of all, kids are people. Like, they're people, so even the idea that they wouldn't be allowed in first or business class, like, if they paid for a seat, they're a person. And to, like, Sarka made a point, like, no, behavior is never a guarantee, no matter your age. I get it. The other thing that I think is really interesting is I think people assume just because I'm a mom does not mean that I like the sound of a crying baby. It is not a pleasant sound. But in no way do I think that the baby shouldn't be there. And another thing that I recently thought of is that, there's another argument that kind of comes up with kids and flying is, well, why are you even taking them? They're not going to remember anything. Why are you taking the baby? Like, we're also bringing our children to see their family. And a lot of the joy that brings to elderly members of the family who maybe can't fly. Even just in this discussion, think about how many of us are talking about trips in which we're going to see family. So this idea that, yes, it's absolutely privileged to be able to fly with, and I feel so grateful that I can fly with my kids. But this idea that I'm just taking, a baby on a vacation that they won't remember, that's not always the case. So much of the time when people are traveling with kids, they're bringing those children to see family members. So I just think in general, I wish there was greater acceptance and, just get some noise canceling headphones if you know that that's something that's going to bother you. The toddler kicking on the back of the seat, I get it. That's not cool. When my kids do that, I'm like horrified and I do everything in my power to like physically block them from, that's not okay. But something like a crying baby, I'm sorry. It's just part of life. My mom has this great saying, the art of living in society together. And that's part of it. We all live together in society with babies, with older people, with people with disabilities, with people with all kinds of issues. I wish there was just more acceptance and more of that kind of community, like Sarga saying, and other like embracing where you have other passengers help, offering to help with the baby versus shunning, babies and small kids on airplanes. So that's my tirade. I'll get off my soapbox. Clearly I have feelings on the issue, but
yeah, +1 to everything you just said. It drives me nuts. Like, I think kids can learn by osmosis too, in a way, right? I mean, this idea that you're just bringing a baby along for the ride. Like, Tim, we were talking about just the beginning of this podcast. I do think my kids are more adaptable because they like the pursuit of new things. They are curious. Would they have been curious just like through DNA? Perhaps. But we are giving them opportunities to explore. And I wouldn't trade any of that, even if they can't remember anything that happens before the age of 4,
Also, they also learn that what they think is normal in one place is not normal in another. Like, even if they don't remember exactly, like they'll remember they went to some place where, I don't know, toilet paper isn't normal, or they always eat fruit in the morning. And I think it's just like a really nice thing for kids to be able to grow up with that idea that that places are different, but people are still living there and living life.
Amen. I mean, those are all such good points. And I'd love to finish off with some of our favorite places we've been with our families. Could be US, could be global, that you would absolutely recommend. Sarika, where do you love to go?
I'll put a plug in for Kenya. I think Kenya is such a great family-friendly destination. Isla has been on, I counted, I think 7 or 8 safaris, and she's 3, so she is a faster animal spotter than most adults that you see. You get in the car, she knows all of their names, and she's just like so keenly observant as a result. So I feel like going specifically on safari with a child is one of the best things that you can do.
Awesome. Michelle, what about you?
I'll put a plug in for Vancouver, Canada. We did it back when Nico was 2 or just about to turn 2. We got in that one last trip before they're not a lap child anymore. You know, every parent knows. And the advantage was no jet lag. We were going north. We got a little taste of international travel. You know, someone could say Canada is a little international travel light, but still another country with different customs. It's cool. So it was a great summer destination versus going somewhere too hot and really forested. So lots of hiking and outdoors. And along those lines, I also have to put another plug, and it's so cliche, but the national parks, we got our kids those national park passports where you can mark off all the national parks. And we're just so excited to go through and mark them off. And they have the little junior ranger programs at each national park. So I know it was, huge during the pandemic, and the national parks are never going to get old, right?
Yeah, I took Oliver to Yosemite when he was young, and all the big open spaces of central Southern California have been great. We had real fun in Big Sur, wading through rivers among the trees, and there's a place called Carmel Valley Ranch, which is a sprawling ranch style hotel up there. Yeah, we've made a lot of good memories in California.
Yosemite has that great Evergreen Lodge. I think maybe Michelle or Tim, you guys recommended it. I love that place.
It's great. It's amazing. It's so great for families.
Few last minute favorites. I have loved Portugal with little kids. It's such a welcoming place for families. Everything from like the automatic families get to go first in airport security lines to pregnant women get their own parking spots. Playgrounds are next level. I feel like half of our travel is around like what new playground are we going to discover? So we spent a lot of time in like Lisbon playgrounds. Scotland, equally welcoming. Everyone just like you were saying about Kenya, Sarika, it's just like, they're just tiny humans, they're not subordinates, so to speak. So much of Europe, I think, acts that way. We were just in Italy with them too, France. So highly recommend those trips. I think that's about it. That's all the time we have. We could talk for like 4 more hours, I think, but we all have work to do, and you all have busy lives because you are parents. So thank you, everyone. Happy travels, and take care of your tiny humans.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you gleaned some tips if you're a parent about how best to coordinate your travels going forward with your kids, or if you're not, just appreciating how difficult it is to move around this world with kids. A couple of updates from both Sarika and Michelle. They both have taken their trips, and Michelle said that their trip went very well. The jet lag was nowhere near as bad as she thought it would be. As she said during the episode, kids are pretty resilient, and she found that her kids powered through most days. She did say that Catalina took a monster 3-hour stroller nap that first morning after waking up at 3:30 a.m., but she said that even that was kind of convenient because they could still explore while she slept. And the food suitcase was a huge hit. She said it worked out perfectly. It allowed the kids, especially Catalina, to transition to local food and snacks rather than forcing them to try new things when they were still tired and adjusting to a new place and time. Michelle said as their supply slowly started to dwindle, they started to experiment with local finds. and managed to find both Philadelphia cream cheese in Poland and Romania, which Catalina loved with pretzel stick dips. But Catalina also fell in love with Romanian hot dogs. So hey, she tried something new. And then they did empty the suitcase and bring it back filled with some toys and other, travel souvenirs. So total hit there. And Sarika is having a wonderful time in London with Isla right now. She said that they haven't even had to plan that many activities since Isla's been so excited to take the double-decker bus and the tube. And she sent a photo of Isla eating an ice cream cone the size of her head, which I think we'll share in our Instagram stories this week. They've met friends around the city. They did take her to the Ai Weiwei exhibit that included his giant version of Monet's water lilies, but made out of Lego bricks, which Isla really loved, even if she didn't kind of fully understand the subversive nature of his art. So that's it. The trips went well. And like I said, once Laura gets back from her big trip, we will let you know how it goes. If you want to follow along with our editors as they travel with their kids, you can do so on Instagram. Laura is at Laura_Redman. Sarika is at Sarika008. Michelle is at Michelle Hall Baran. And Tim is at Tim Chester. And, of course, Afar is now on Threads, so please join us there. Our handle is at Afar Media. Ready for more unpacking? Visit afar.com and be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Threads. If you enjoyed today's exploration, I hope you'll come back for more great stories. You can subscribe to Unpacked on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to rate and review it. It helps other travelers find the show. This has been Unpacked, a production of Afar Media. The podcast is produced by Aislinn Green and Nikki Galteland. Music composition by Chris Collin. And remember, the world is complicated. We're here to help you unpack it.